Here we are then, inner circle time. Now, this week we're in December still, and I said that we were going to have a kind of loose focus of December and New Year's resolutions and the future and a kind of an arc over these next few webinars. And today, it's it fits into that arc, and I hope since last week's confusion to clarity and understanding that you did take the time, and if you didn't take the time to go back, do that exercise a second time. If you only did it once, do it again, do it, is something that the more you do, the better you can get at it. Later on at the in this webinar, I'm going to show you a process that you can use with a guided or self-guided self-hypnosis relaxation, systematic relaxation, or a meditation, like a self-directed meditation or a self-hypnosis session, a mind reprogramming, when you go into a relaxed meditative or hypnosis trance state, a process to allow your unconscious mind to run through as you go into that trance, so that it's all about intention. Remember, it's about setting intention and using certain techniques within trance to negotiate between parts of you that there are conflicts, inner conflicts to resolve and to get rid of, to smoothen out the ride so that everything becomes aligned, so that inner conflicts, situations where you're not acting from the higher self and that best, most resourceful place moving forward. And we're going to be looking at the way that we view the world, that we frame the world, the frame that we put on experiences. And there are many different types of frames that we, Robert Anton Wilson, I like the phrase, Robert Anton Wilson used the phrase reality tunnels, and they are more than frames, they are tunnels. A tunnel is something that goes off into the future, right? Or even a reality tunnel of the past that you remember differently, so that you have a better experience to build from. And into the future, a reality tunnel. This is why we do things with timelines, to have the benefit of hindsight, looking back, imagining what you could have done different from a point out in the future. Having the benefit of hindsight is something that when things happen, because I'm sure you've been in situations where you've thought afterwards, I wish I'd have said this, I could have done that. What if I acted from this place? And with the benefit from hindsight after the fact, you think how you could have made a change there. Well, when you do make the changes in those situations moving forward, by deliberately taking a moment to noticing that you see those changes, or you see those points for change, and then thinking about change from that moment onwards, stepping into the future, and to have noticed how you did just automatically act in a new way, which is from you at a more aligned and a better place, right? And automatically, as you start acting from that higher place, that more aligned, more authentic, however you want to describe the feeling of that space that you want to enter into, right? That zone that you want to get into, then that's great to have more of that, and to have more of a life that is aligned with those kind of passions. So being aware of the frames that we view the world through, the different filters and the sets of information that we choose to believe, that we then receive our information through, is something that allows us to find creative solutions, to negotiate in every area of life. You know, this is used in creative areas by entertainers, by musicians, by magicians, by business people, by salespeople. It's artistic, it's creative, it's all different successful people doing their thing have an ability to reframe problems, situations really quickly straight away. Richard Bandler says, you look back and laugh about it years later. Why wait? Why wait to look back at it in a certain way after years of time when you know? And after doing the confusion to understanding exercise, where we got deep on the structure of our thinking, picking out the way that it is shaped, if you do the same thing, thinking about when you look back at something now, think about it, when you look back at something now that you look back and laugh on, and if you take the time and become curious and become, a conscious architect of where you want to go, your future, then you can look at the way that you structure that thought, that belief, that you've looked back and laughed at it. And when you view the world specifically through that tunnel of events and ways of viewing the world right away, rather than having to wait years, you're already looking back and laughing at it. And looking back and laughing at it is just one choice that you have, to look back and laugh and not be affected by it anymore in a much shorter time span than having to wait years, but just weeks or days or even hours that you can look back and it's happened. That's how it is. That's the past. Here is the future. What do we want? And to be able to look back and laugh is one choice point. Now, being able to have much more aligned and effortlessly enjoyable motivation moving forward, we want to be able to switch our frames quickly. We want to be able to jump in and picture something with a new frame. So we go out of the problem mindset and into the solution mindset, into the solution focused mindset. So rather than one of the things is, I'm sure you can recognize times where you act in a certain way, and really it would be better if you did a different thing. Well, these are situations that ahead of time you can plan to be different in, plan to view through a different reality tunnel. And when you do take a moment just to do one of these simple kind of mind exercises like the swoosh pattern, or jump in on a timeline and start looking down the future from an associated point of view where you are seeing the world having already achieved part of that goal and feeling good, then those simple little mind experiments, attaching good feelings to mental imagery of the things you want, these are the secrets of creating change, of putting out there into the universe through you taking that action and the inspired actions and the opportunities that you see around you. So we want to do more of that, find more of those solution focused mindsets, to have to come from a space of calm and clarity of mind, so that the mind doesn't get clouded by those kind of things, and to vision a different view into the future. So we want to be able to step into a different reality tunnel, to be able to reframe a situation straight away when something happens. So when something happens, the content of what's happened can be reframed in a new way that it's more resourceful. So if there's a power cut and you lose some work you've been working on and you haven't saved it, and you need to get it done by a deadline, and you're running out of time and you're up against it, and well, there's a power cut, you can't do it, or you've lost internet connection, the internet's out, gone. That's just it, you can't do it now. the power is gone, the internet is down, so you cannot do it. Well, the opportunity to get stressed and annoyed with that exists, and a lot of people choose and they take that opportunity, and even to just spend any amount of time down that reality side of, I can't do this, I'm stressed, I need to instantly to be able to think, well, okay, this is, may choose that frame. It's the universe has given me this opportunity to just relax, go do something else, spend some time with my wife, spend some time with my family, go do something different, right? And just think, well, okay, this is the situation now. What's the positive frame to see it through? A much more positive frame to just say, well, it's the universe saying it's time to go and enjoy. It don't have to be the universe saying it's time to take a break, it's time to chill out. It's just nature's way of saying it. It doesn't have to be nature's way of saying it. But to view a viewpoint of that is as it is, any emotion that is attached to that isn't a joyful and positive emotion is by definition a negative emotion. And attaching negative emotions to mental imagery causes negative feelings in the body and negative vibrations in the body and negative tensing and stressing and it releases cortisol and it releases bad hormones and it tenses. It's just the wrong way to go. So any viewing of that situation should be done with, wow, it's given me the opportunity now to think about it in a different way. I needed some time out. I hadn't realized how much I needed just to relax. It's getting so busy and hectic. And that thing that happened where I couldn't do it. The tire is flat. It's one of the things I often say is with people, they have all these incredible plans in their mind that they don't realize how planned and how elegant their planning is. And it's planning for things really that they don't want most of the time. So just a routine of getting up and going to work in the morning is something that a lot of people do, and they don't realize they have a plan in their mind that they're going to get up and eat a certain kind of breakfast, maybe do some exercise, see different family members, or check emails, all sorts of activities before they then go to a car, for example, to drive to work, and there's a flat tire. I'm getting stressed and annoyed because you only get a flat tire when it's a really busy day at work, when you've got so many deadlines and so many things and meetings and such important reasons that you have to be there on time, and you have a flat tire. Have a flat tire. Do you want a flat tire and a bad mood? Because the bad mood bit is obviously your choice. You can choose to have the bad mood or you can choose to have the good mood. So choosing to have that good mood and choosing ahead of time to choose certain situations that you know that flip certain switches and create new ways in the future, literally like an actor, rehearsed a new reality title to live at, a better way of being, a place to have come from, which is more aligned, just feels better, isn't giving out any negative stress and vibration to a person or a situation or anything. Instead, is recognizing that as an opportunity to grow, as an opportunity to learn. And the only energy that's directed towards it, right? It's good energy. Think about it. It's only a good energy, so that as you look back and laugh after a short time of just simply thinking about that thing, you only have a good energy towards it, so that it's something in your past which is it's just a thing that happened, and you have a good feeling, a thankfulness towards the lesson that you've learned is where you're going, is where you are, and where you're going is the lesson that you've learned. And they're always better when you feel good. So when you feel good and you aim that at the future, that's what you get more of. So this is reframing. This is looking at the world through different frames, jumping down and diving into reality tunnels. And those reality tunnels are the timelines that we go out into the future on, the multiple different timelines for different things, the visions out to the future, imagining certain steps along the timeline of having achieved and having got to certain markers and mile points along a journey to a goal, and indulging those in those imagined imageries in your mind of visualizations of doing things to get you to that end goal as the points along your journey just makes it so that you focus your attention that way. Recently, I was talking with someone, and she had three potential scenarios of a way a situation could play out. And the worst case scenario of how the situation would play out would be that she had to stay in a certain job to a certain period of time and have to just abide by a certain set of conditions, which meant a number of constraints were placed on, and it was detailed. It was a really detailed vision of the worst case scenario. Well, okay, so we were just chatting conversation. It wasn't, this was my client session. It was just chatting conversation. And so well, tell me about the best case scenario. There wasn't one. No best case scenario. No best case scenario had been thought out in anywhere near the amount of detail. And so you have these different outcomes of best case scenario not even being planned at all, blurring out of focus imagery, and worst case scenario fully mapped out with feeling attached as well, with a feeling track to this imagery, this mental movie, this really detailed vision of how I don't want it to be. And when you map out things in your mind and attach energy to them, they're things, thoughts that you start creating. Neural pathways get created, strengthened. The more energy, the more neural pathways, the more good feelings that you put to a thought that you keep having. When you're not guarded with the thoughts and what's going on, when it's not being directed deliberately, sometimes we need to clean up, spiritual housekeeping, if you like. So as we move into the new year coming up, this few series of webinars is about gaining more clarity and focus about what you do want. Being able to look down reality tunnels that support you more, that come from a place where you are more aligned and doing what it is that you want to do, what it is that you want to do. And it's an exciting place. Now, from simple day-to-day things with having a flat tire, just being able to recognize that you have a flat tire and, okay, so look, the reality is changing from this point because I can't get a bus or a taxi, or if I do this or that, I'm going to be late, miss certain meetings. I'm not going to be there for certain things. So the day is going to go differently. And when you realize that the images and the things that you were running in your mind of just getting in the car and driving to work and going through certain routines of breakfast and all sorts of things before you discover the flat tire is there. It's your choice to choose to have a good mood or a bad mood about it. And when you choose not to choose the bad mood and instead rehearse ahead of time for certain situations, hopefully the flat tire thing doesn't occur for you, although it happened for me several times in a row when I kept using this metaphor at some webinars and things, and it does make you wonder strange coincidences like that. So if it's certain things, you have a plan to view them in a different way, right? This is the idea, that you deliberately plan ahead of time by imagining how you do want to be in that situation. Instead of that old one, just let it swish away to the new way that you want to see yourself being. And these points of reframing our life, of taking the experience and changing the meaning of it, changing the meaning of what it means, that somebody isn't having a go, that they're supporting you. They just don't know the best. They don't know how to go about it properly. They're doing it wrong, right? They're not saying the right words. They're not. It sounds like they're nagging. They're having a go. But they're not. They're just trying to be supportive, and they're coming from a different place than you. Their intention is a pure intention, right? There is a good intention there. There's a miscommunication, and if you understand them, then you come from that better place, right? So you change the meaning, that they're not an overbearing boss telling you, I want these things, looking over your shoulder, making sure there's somebody who is concerned about your well-being and wants to ensure that you understand how to do that process. So they're watching over you. Now they're using all the wrong body language and they're saying all the wrong words for you to view it as them being helpful. And maybe they just can't be bothered, or they're tired, or it's just how they are. But the intention is obviously one that they want you to understand and to be more efficient and not have any issues there. They have a best intention, that there is always a best intention behind a behavior. And the deeper that you need to go, or the higher you need to go, to look at it from a different point of view, to imagine floating up, way, way up over a problem situation, looking down at that situation, way, way off in the distance, and imagine even floating right out to the stratosphere, so that the problem is so insignificant, and floating forwards into the future, along the timeline from wherever, and imagine that far off in the distance in the past. It's going to change the way you think about something. It's going to change the way you feel about and the way you view something that happened. So switching, instantly recognizing that there's a good intention. What can that be? And even maybe then thinking, oh, it's a shame this person is misunderstood by a lot of people simply because of the way they act and stuff. But I know their intention is pure, and it's a shame other people don't. Whatever you want to put on it, being able to recognize that person is acting from a really good place, although for all intents and purposes, to everyone watching, it looks like they're being a complete idiot, right? But there is some shared common goal. When you get down to it, there is a shared common goal, and you all want the same thing. And then building up from that viewpoint, creating a new reality tunnel that's bigger than and accepts everything you've seen that they're doing, and recognizing that those behaviors have a positive intention, so that you can rewrite in your mind a much better viewpoint to view the world through, quicker and faster, and do it without having to wait for time to view back down the past in a way that makes you think, yeah, that was something that happened, so that it frees you up to create more imagery for the future, to get more clarity and focus on the front end of the timeline, the new part of the reality tunnel that you start looking down. That it's a belief that you have that you've always done a certain thing, so you'll always do a certain thing moving forward. These even are wealth goals and abundance goals, that you're only at this point, so that's what it's going to mean moving forward. There can't be sudden big shifts, leaps, magical increases. What you've done is what you'll always get. You ask certain things of people and you always get a certain response. Because it happened in the past, it will happen in the future. Well, the future is for you to write and create now. The future is unwritten yet. You have plans for it. And those plans, the plans that are the plans for the worst case scenario, and the plans of those aren't the ones to shine up into the future moving forward. 2017 starts very soon. It's just a number, but lots of people all agree it's the beginning of something. So make it the beginning of something, the beginning of something magical for you now. The future, the reality tunnels that you can look back and change the way that you viewed things, creates, try it, do it over the next few days. Look out and notice even when you realize that you've already been doing these exercises like swish patterns, and in the inner circle we've been doing timeline stuff. And I encourage you to start exploring. Use some of the recordings as well that I've put in the members area. Do some of your own mind experiments of deliberately creating in your mind imagery along a timeline, as we've discussed before, about you doing well and succeeding at certain steps along the way. And when you do those big processes that only take a moment, and do the swish pattern that only takes a moment, to deliberately focus your mind to do more of these techniques daily, even just for a week, a few mind techniques when you meditate or when you relax or when you go to bed or when you wake up, or both, that you just take a little bit of time, like you take your time to go to the gym or go for a run or do your yoga practice. Like you take time to do the things that you enjoy doing. You take time to do the things that allow you to enjoy doing more of the things that you want. And the more that you program your mind to automatically switch into the new reality tunnels, to instantly change the frame that you view the world down, and change the old way that you view certain situations, so you can clean up past issues of things that bother you, that annoy you from the past. New, bigger picture reality tunnels of those. So you can imagine floating up above certain situations that you want to have a different viewpoint on. And from that point out into the future, you can do it differently, because those things in the past that were ways of viewing the world are just ways that you used to view the world. And you can choose to picture them differently through a different reality tunnel, and give them less feeling, give them less importance. There's the cleaning up of the past so that you can move forward. And by changing the meaning of something, so the person isn't meaning to be bossy or overprotective, standing over your shoulder, breathing down your neck. They're not supposed to be a backseat driver, a passenger seat driver, an advisor. They're with ultimately all the best intention, shared best intention. And to practice certain situations ahead of time that you know, push buttons so that you plan to have those new choices already, because you reframe the meaning of those things. And as you reframe the meaning or the content, you can allow your unconscious mind to just think of a reframe for the context. So if you change the context instead of the content, and this is just something that your unconscious mind can do to create lucidity of mind and to recognize the mental skills that you have, so that in a new situation, you can apply a strategy that works really well, but in a different context. And you can allow your unconscious mind to do that because it's recognized how that could be applied in a different context. So this issue or this problem that you've changed the meaning of, that you've changed the content of it, is actually coming from a good place. Where else can that activity be useful in your life? What other contexts, what are the different parts of your life, is that a useful strategy to run in the future? What extra lucidity of thought can you have from being able to use that same pattern of behavior, but it's no longer a problem, it's actually a solution? And that's adding even more lucidity to the future, right? So as you change content, you can allow your unconscious to change contexts and then bring them into your awareness as well, so that you think, oh, wow, that's useful. I can use that. And then you imagine seeing yourself using that in the future is even better, right? Because that's planning to do it. So by the context, it's if you've got a child that's always saying no, well, in other contexts, that's really useful, isn't it? For a kid to be able to say no in a certain context. There are different behaviors, and in a different situation, a phobia, for example, that's an automatic behavior, right? Even it's a stimulus response in people. That happens. Stimulus response and behavior. So when you change those, you're changing the reality tunnel big. Now, if you change the context, that a phobia is something that people are scared of spiders, and that's really cool. Instant mechanism. Anytime you see a spider, instantly it creates a what if you had that phobia of being homeless and poor and not having any money? What if that was there? That would propel you away from getting into that situation. So in that context, it's a really useful phobia, a phobia of getting unhealthy or getting overweight. It's an absolute fear, a phobia, not where it becomes detrimental, but a real motivation that pushes you away from where it is you don't want to be, so you can go to where you want to be. The carrot and stick motivation strategy. The stick can be useful. It's always important to have a carrot many, many, many times bigger than the stick, something that's so enjoyable to achieve compared to the stick, which is always there to stop you backsliding, the thing that just gets you out of bed because, if you don't, and if you stop going to the a bit of that motivation, but with lots of the carrot. So there are always, even in the most biggest problem you could think of, like a phobia, there's always a way of reframing a context there even. So we're going to change the way we view things by changing the content and changing the meaning of it and changing the situation that it's in, the context that it's in. And they're ways of creating new viewpoints for the world. And the more that we automate those, so that we just start choosing those ways of viewing the world, bigger, shinier, more forward-focused ways of viewing the world, the more we get those goals that are out there that we're looking forward to going and achieving. And so recognizing that we have skill sets that work really well, or we do things, or we have activities like, you can reframe somebody who's being really tight with money and they're really cheap and stuff. Well, it's a strategy that's enabled them to put their kids through a private education, or it's a strategy that's enabled him to live a totally different lifestyle, a beach lifestyle, instead of living. There are different ways of looking at everybody, and things that they give you, the suggestions they give you, and when you take them on board through a new frame, a new reality tunnel, one that the meaning is pure, and that also in other ways you could use that in another way, then you head out towards your goals. It's going to get you to 2017 quicker and faster. So as you thinking about viewing the world more and more automatically and noticing each time you've changed and you've made a change, and making time to make changes, to use the swish pattern, to use the timeline techniques, to rehearse in advance how you want to be in a certain situation, to mentally, in your mind, imagine how you want to act in a situation that in the past you didn't act from your best place and best intention, so that in the future you have already thought of how you're going to do it. You've already got a solution. And when you've done that, when you've taken a moment, and take a moment once or twice a day, like I say, to do some of these processes, like you take time to do other things for the next week, even though it's really busy this week, and you know there's that thing that's attributed to Buddha or the Dalai Lama or something, you know, if you haven't got time to meditate today, then you've doubled, your meditation has been doubled, or it's like 4 hours meditation today, because you're so busy, you have to do more meditation. And it's true, you have to take time, and to take time for you. Now, when you do, and you take time to do these exercises and plan to be different and plan to have different viewpoints for the world, you automate your thinking, you practice, you rehearse your thinking for the future, for one that is where you're going, and you're going to go get more and have more of the things that you want. To put those plans out there into the future, and to reframe everything as a more positive, put a positive spin on everything by changing the meaning of what came in, by being aware that it's not ... It's not a terrible tasting meal because somebody else loves that tasting meal. It's not a hot and spicy meal. Somebody else finds it medium or mild. It's not those attributes. They're what you're bringing to it. And as complex as that is with just a meal, people are bigger and more complex. So being able to chunk right to a point where you can build up and understand and recognize that they're coming from the right place, just going about it in a different way to you, and build a new reality tunnel for the future. Change the meaning, the content of what's going on there, so it's one that supports you, and being aware of that process that they're using, that you could use it somewhere else in another context, because they could do that exact same thought pattern in another context and would make them really wealthy. If somebody is using that strategy in a different way, in a different place, it can make them hugely successful or infinitely more talented in a certain thing. So there's an application for that way of viewing the world, that reality tunnel, that in a different context, in a different part of your life. It's a much more useful strategy. Now, just allowing your unconscious to pop to your mind now, and when you noticing that, oh yeah, I could do that in that way. And when you noticing that you actually, you know, it's different. That's where we are, the moment in time that is the present, the things that have happened in the past, the flat tires, the things that have happened in the past, the things that have been said don't equal the future. There's this point here, and the future is to be drawn, and the future is to be created by you from this point. When all of the negative emotions are just replaced with thankfulness and gratefulness for everything that's there, that's got you to this point, is the point that you move forward into the future, creating the realities that you want by creating the thoughts and attaching them out into the future, changing the meaning, changing the location of the thing, the place that you do it. Reframing, putting new reframes out there, frames that are connected, that go into a deep tunnel, a reality tunnel out into the future. That is the inner circle this week. It's all about changing the frames. Change some of the frames that you view the world for. Plan ahead of time to, to have a different frame for the situations you know in the past that you've would have been better to have actually, it would have been better if I said this or did this or acted from this place. Create those better frames in the future. Take some time to do these exercises of putting out there into the future what you do want, and just a few minutes, once, twice a day for the next week, and then see how different things are. And as you start to do them more, see how it changes how you feel and the things that happen. So as you do things like the morning gratitude booster process, and as you do regularly do things, not every day in your gratitude journal, not every day you do the gratitude booster, but every day you realize actually you've done something, because anything is something and it's all you. And even if you just reached around and twisted or bent in a certain way, it's a yoga pose that you've done, or a small little thought that you had is a small little reframe or a positive thought. And every one of those that you noticing from now moving forward, of things that you've done differently and that are a bigger and better you, build to create more of what you do want. And so all of those that you notice and feel grateful for are the things that power you forward. And forward is where we go into next week's episode of the Inner Circle, where we're going to be doing some real magic to create change in the future. I'll see you then.